You having some issues over there, Randall?
No, we're okay. We're
Okay.
Fiona came down and was asking me about one of her stuffies. So
Oh, she's good. She's good. If we need to take a pause for a sec.
We need to take care of the stuffy situation.
Yeah.
let me see what she's got going on here. 1 second.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. I couldn't tell. I was like, oh man, something looks urgent or something. I was like, we can pause for a sec.
I know. I was looking at your face. I was like, does Kevin want to say something?
Yeah, I more was like, I was trying to see, like, can you tell Randall looks like something's going on? Hey, everybody. Welcome to Pursuing Pixels. My name's Kevin Portelli, and I'm here tonight with John Hines.
Hey there.
And Randall Nolery.
Hey, folks.
And we are back, as always, in almost 2024. I was about to say in the new year, but I guess this episode will come out next year. But we're still squeezing one more in under the wire in 2023. But yeah, hope everybody's having a good, wrap up to 2023 and all that. And as always, we're going to dig into some video games and just kind of hit the ground running. I'm going to kick things off here with a few of the things that I've been playing. I have been picking up a bunch of games on Switch on sale again. I've been kind of tapping into that realm of all the $2 games on sale. I think I've mentioned a few of them on Save It for the Cast recently, and even on some of our proper episodes, or even just some of the time that we've been just chatting about stuff in the Discord or just before recording or whatever. And I've picked up a few where I've been a little bit not burned on them so much, but the port, I picked up this one game where it's kind of a top-down tile-based, grid-based thing, but you can only use the joystick to move, so it's kind of annoying that I can't use the D-pad. So there's been a few weird ports on the Switch where obviously I'm not mad grabbing a game for $2 and being oh, okay, I didn't love this, or I'm not gonna play a ton of this, whatever. But I've picked up a few. Probably the two that I'm the three that I'm the most excited to play some more of are Bleak Sword DX, Lil Gator Game, and Boomerang X. The only one of those I've actually played a little bit of is Boomerang X, and I was like, okay, this is pretty freaking sweet. I thought it was going to be a roguelike, and I haven't gotten that impression so far from the game, so I'm curious to play some more of that. But the two games that I did want to actually talk about that I've played a little bit more of here are actually a couple kind of wizard-themed games that I've had on my wish list for a long time, or at least as long as they've been on this eShop, because I know the first one here didn't come out too long ago on Switch, although I know it was released about 10 years ago. It's called Wizorb from Tribute Games, and that was kind of the reason I scooped it up. It's only $5 in and of itself. Again, they kind of released it on the 10-year anniversary on Switch and maybe on other platforms as well. But it went on sale for 50% off around the holidays here, and I was like, okay, $250. I own every other game from Tribute to the best of my knowledge, at least, and I've loved every single one of them. Flint Hook, the new Turtles game, Steel Assault. I know there's a few other ones that I'm forgetting, but I've really been a big fan of their stuff. And I know Wizorb being kind of their earliest one, I was I almost bought this more as a curiosity, because it is essentially it's a Arkanoid Brick Breaker kind of clone. Clone is a little bit of an overstatement, or kind of selling it short a little bit, because it does have a ton of personality and charm, and the graphics, they're with that, in typical Tribute fashion, the pixel art's just amazing. Even back at, their very early releases, it's all the little expressiveness of when you hit a enemy a few times with your, little orb or whatever, and it knocks them out and they kind of evaporate into whatever, cloud they turn into or whatever. All the little death animations are so cool. Even just when you hit a brick and it kind of disappears and evaporates is a really cool kind of I don't know, the way it dematerializes or something. It's just a really cool visual effect. The music is good, but it's a little bit on that retro kind of grating vibe. I will admit that I've kind of been playing it handheld, and people have been watching stuff on the TV in the background. So I haven't had the best experience to really soak that side of things in, but it did just feel this is getting kind of repetitive. Each world seems like it has about 12 or 13 stages. A few different power-ups. It seems like you're going to unlock some more maybe throughout the campaign and whatnot, which is that's kind of the cool thing, though, is that it's just kind of campaign-driven. There's kind of a boss battle at the end of each stage. It's kind of reminds me, or definitely reminds me a lot of playing like Strikey Sisters. I
Yeah,
would say
I could see
Strikey
that.
Sisters definitely has the edge over this one, being number one, that it's a 2-player co-op game and just has like a little more charm and interesting like enemy stuff going on. But at the same time, I would say this game's a little bit more polished. Wizorb, that is, like, it's just like really well made. Again, the pixel art's amazing. The controls feel really solid. It does have some options to tweak the paddle speed and stuff like that. It felt great right off the bat, so I was like, I'm not gonna mess with it. It just feels good.
Nice.
But I've really been having a lot of fun with that game, and happy to grab it for half off, but would have been more than happy to grab it for full price at $5.
I'm gonna grab that now because I'm like, why do I know Wizorb? I'm like,
$5
yeah,
is
it's an Xbox Live
nothing.
Arcade thing. That's why.
Yeah. Exactly. It's honestly, I've been thinking about that a lot. I'm like staring at my games or a bunch of games on my wish list. It's like, oh, $2. Oh, this is $5. Oh, this is $7.50. I'm like, why am I not just buying this game? I really want it. And, obviously I have a backlog to get through here, but there's so many games that go on sale for cheap. And I'm like, why am I hemming and hawing about a $2 purchase here?
Go cheaper.
I don't really get it. But another $2 game that I scooped up recently and kind of themed similarly, gameplay wise and, just thematically in the wizard theme is Pinball Wizard. And like Randall was talking about, a little bit tough to find if you're just like searching for it online.
Yeah.
But I guess if you just type Pinball Wizard game, this one's from Frosty Pop is the developer or maybe the publisher. I'm not sure, but caught my eye a while ago. I can't remember if a friend shared this online or if I just saw it on Twitter or caught it on the eShop, on sale one time before, but it's normally only $8. And again, totally fair price at that. I actually was just playing this a little bit before hopping on to record tonight. Another game that I kind of thought was going to be more of like a roguelike presentation, and it sort of is, because you're like grinding and unlocking these new abilities as you collect treasure on each stage, and it basically is like a dungeon crawler pinball game with like pretty strict pinball mechanics. And the first few runs, I was a little bit disappointed. It's got a really charming presentation, but like a little bit basic for lack of a better term, but like everything's like real clean, looks really nice, kind of like low poly-ish 3D presentation, but it takes a little bit of getting used to like the movement of the character, and your character is like literally this, you're not a ball, you're literally like a wizard, little mini wizard running around. And then when you run to the bottom of the dungeon, you have the weight and feel of a pinball, but you're just like, takes a little getting used to that visual that you're not like actually rolling, you're just like running and like hitting little bumps in the terrain and flying off the table after like an explosion happens. Like it takes a little getting used to. And there's a lot of like little cheap elements where like, because it's a pinball game, you don't have full control of your character. So like, you're like, okay, I have to hit these slimes to attack them. But also when they turn orange, they're attacking me. But if I hit it when it's orange, a lot of times there's like nothing I can do. But as you unlock some of these like abilities, as you kind of grind in roguelike fashion, or I guess even in like RPG fashion, I guess, I've now got an ability where you can now press, obviously the shoulder buttons are like your flippers for the left and right. And then now you can either hold down the A button and it puts it into like, bullet time, slow motion. And then this like radial dial starts spinning around your character, and you can do like a dash and then dash into enemies, and it multiplies your attack percentage, like 150%. You can keep upgrading that with coins and stuff. And have it either last longer or upgrade how much extra damage you do. And then now I've also unlocked the ability to like cast a spell, which is essentially almost acts like it's like a second ball coming into play. It does like its own separate amount of damage, but same thing. You press a different button, but it goes into like bullet time, slow motion, radial menu flies around, or not menu, but radial like kind of clock spins around, and then you release it when you want to fire the spell. And then you can play that just like a ball, and you can again upgrade that to do more damage or to last longer, because it just fizzles out and fades after enough time. And it doesn't do as much damage as you do running into the enemies, but you kind of like learn like, okay, I can't just use my dash to like hit and attack enemies. I do have to kind of save my energy, because you're using like your magic or whatever, I think it's just called energy, to dash or cast the spell. And you gotta like decide like, okay, that enemy, instead of like using it always to be on the offensive, I have to be like, oh shit, I'm gonna hit that slime while it's orange, let me dash away from it instead of dashing into it to do the extra damage. So once I'm like kind of playing that balancing act, getting used to the controls a little bit more, there's sort of like a campaign. And then after you get to floor 16, which again, like I was expecting it to be roguelike, but it seemed like a couple things randomly generated, but like the table, quote unquote, was the same each time when you booted up a floor. and then you're kind of clearing it through, like almost like clearing each level. And then once you get to floor 16, it unlocks like, a daily challenge mode. That's sort of where like the procedural generation comes into play.
Nice.
And then there's like these other tables that unlock that kind of more like are like Sonic Spinball style, like in the sense that there's like kind of multiple tables like off to the side, and you can keep like hitting the ball over to these new areas and stuff like that. So, or you're the wizard, I guess, not really a ball. But I don't know. I've just been having a lot of fun with it. I'm it has the grindy elements that I don't love about a lot of like quote unquote roguelikes, whether or not this one has that element to it beyond the daily challenge mode or whatever. I don't know as far as the procedural generation goes, but I was kind of thinking it was going to be more like, because you play the campaign's called The Tower, and you're like clearing each floor as you climb up. You got to like kill, basically there'll be an enemy on each stage that will drop a key, and then once you pick up that key, you just have to survive long enough or get through the door at the top of the stage. Which again, like before you get that dash, you're kind of like, man, it's so annoying to like, it's really hard to like hit yourself with enough power to get to the top of some of these boards. But then once you unlock that dash, and it's like, maybe I just cleared a few too many of those early stages, like where they're maybe thinking you would have had the dash by now, and like it was just too hard to get to like the top tier of the table. But yeah, and there's still, I'm only about halfway through. I got to the final boss stage today. I haven't been able to clear it, the 21st floor. And then again, it seems like there's like these daily challenge modes and these extra tables, and definitely only about halfway through like the different abilities that I can unlock. So definitely having a good time with that one. Like I said, would have been more than happy to have paid $8 for it, but definitely happy to have snagged this one for $2 and to clear another game out of my wish list queue on the eShop. So
more pinball-based video game influence stuff is always good.
It looks like so good.
Yeah, the charm levels are definitely off the charts. Yeah, and yeah, you can't go wrong with some pinball video game action. No. So, but yeah, why don't I kick it over to John here for a little I don't know, video game chit chat.
Yeah, so I recently picked up the Steam Deck, the older version. Once our friend Mikey picked up the OLED version, I got his old Steam Deck original, and I've been booting up a bunch of different games, a lot of stuff that we touched on a Save It for the Cast, replaying old favorites that we've talked about on the podcast before. Was playing Hades before this call started. It came in a little bit late.
Always a good decision.
Yeah, I need to go back to that game.
It's holds up, and it's still fun to start over from nothing. And even like kind of going back with the idea of a roguelike progression, just to go a little bit off topic right off the start. But I was very curious to see how Hades handled like having beaten it, multiple times in like the roguelike setting as like, oh, is this a game that you can beat on the first run? And I think if you were perfect and could evade every single enemy hit, I absolutely think you could. But at least for me, I was like, oh, well, I'm actually getting pretty far in this first go, like right off the start. So it's nice to know that, having played that game multiple times through or multiple runs through does carry over, and that I think I have gotten through the early stages a lot faster than my first time through playing the game.
Yeah.
But in addition to Hades, I have been playing a lot of Monster Hunter World, and I will come back to that because another game that I've played before and that we've talked about before on the podcast is Lonely Mountains Downhill. And that was another game that I put on the Steam Deck just to, get a feel for it and try out some games that I hadn't necessarily played on another console other than the Switch, just to get a feel for it. But
it's kind of like when you get like a new TV, like you want to like fire up a few things that how they, or the new like headphones. Like I want to listen to this album that I know how it sounds and like really tell, how these headphones are serving me or whatever.
Exactly.
But let me tell you, playing Lonely Mountains Downhill for the second time through from nothing, that game, really benefits from knowing the maps beforehand, and was really hitting a lot of the same buttons that Monster Hunter World has been. And I'm going to be talking about Monster Hunter World like a lot on this podcast. I think it's going to be the like other game that I'm just continuously coming back to and playing, because it also just has a nice community still, which is amazing for a game that came out, I have no idea how long ago.
It's been a while. It's been a minute. There's been multiple
yeah.
Monster Hunter releases since then. So.
And the mission that I played before turning it off for the night was a Witcher 3 crossover where I played as Geralt, and it sucked. It was bad. It was a bad mission.
Witcher is not Capcom or anything, right?
No,
it's not.
It's weird. That was very weird. Like I had already done the
grab.
Mega Man side games and the Dante from Devil May Cry, featuring Dante from Devil May Cry side mission games, so that you could get alternate costumes in Monster Hunter, so that your Palico could dress up like Mega Man and you could dress up like Dante.
Of course.
But anyway, Monster Hunter World, I really loved how it was. The gameplay seems so structured around you learning the maps and really getting a feel for, oh, this is the locations that these monsters like regularly inhabit, or this is where these items are if you need to fetch them. Because there were a few times when I was just booting the game up and I would be searching for a monster and I didn't have any like scout fly levels, which is how you can track them in the game, which is much better than the previous series where you had to literally hunt them and then paint them, and then the paint would wear off after time and you would lose them on your mini map. But this is like a permanent bonus where after you found them X amount of times and you've leveled up your scout fly levels, these little fireflies will just guide you to where they are until you get a max tracking level, and then they just show up on your mini map. But there were several times when I didn't have any of those, and it was the first time I was hunting them, and I actually just failed the mission, which are like 50-minute timers, because I just couldn't find them. But as I was failing in that 50 minutes, I was learning the layout of the level, and I was kind of internalizing it and memorizing it, which is a gameplay loop that I enjoy. I understand that is maybe not attractive to a lot of other people, but yeah, spending an hour just walking around on a map and then failing. But that sense of getting to know an area and internalizing it and having that be part of the game like proper is what really was affecting me in Lonely Mountains Downhill. And it was the second time I had been playing the game, and I had already played through maybe 50% of the content first, but like replaying it from the start on a new platform, I was like, oh, I remember this. And I was breezing through the first few levels because I was like, oh, I remember there's a shortcut here. Or I remember like I can take this jump even though it looks like I totally can't. And it just felt so good to kind of do the same thing of learn a map, kind of learn the ins and outs of where you can go and what limits you can push. And it was so satisfying to do that and kind of have the skill set of, which is basically just learning a map. And by the way, this is also what I've been doing in the Risk of Rain Returns game, which is a lot of the same maps from the original Risk of Rain. And something about learning a map is just something that's really appealing to me right now. I don't know.
There was something about, I remember when DJ and I would do the co-op sessions with the original Risk of Rain, like being that like, you know, again, another game that's like kind of a roguelike, but it's like the levels are the same every time, but just where the stuff spawns is different. But it was kind of like, it was kind of fun to be like, oh shit, we forgot to check that area up in the top, like upper left corner. Like you just kind of knew the map and like, oh, how can we forget about that? Like there is something satisfying about just, I guess, just committing something to memory. Yeah. Like at the end of the day, just like, yeah.
Especially good level design, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point too. Yeah.
And like I started doing the daily challenges on Lonely Mountains Downhill, which I had never done, and I don't even know.
I was gonna say I've never messed with those.
I don't think that was even a feature when I first started playing it in maybe, but they definitely didn't have seasons. So it's now a seasonal game, and I don't know what you can unlock cosmetics and stuff like every seasonal game, but.
Yeah.
I was doing one of the daily challenges, and I had just selected it without even knowing what the, mods were before. And it was only as I was doing it, I was like, oh, the entire mountain is like reversed. This is a mirror mode. And like I was doing a night mode, mirror mode on
nice.
one of them.
Night modes are hard enough as it is.
Yeah, they are.
But it also felt like the second that I realized it was a mirror mode, and I got to this one segment of the map, I was like, "Oh, I know where a shortcut is," and it felt so good to do that. Like, even though I was eventually getting ranked 2000th out of on the leaderboards, but whatever.
Yeah, at that
and that's
point,
with retrying 10 times because you know exactly where it is, but you want to go fast to do that, get to the next checkpoint as fast as possible. But you just, that risk reward yet again, right?
Yeah.
That's what was so great about that
game.
game. Just the way it like balanced like the tug of war between like the challenges they would give you of like, oh, try to beat this without like crashing X amount of times or beat it in this amount of time, but then like splitting it up into a number of checkpoints, but then having the final challenge be the full track in one with no checkpoints. Like, I just love that game. Like the only complaint I have is like it does get kind of hard, and like if you're not in the mood with like the patience, you're just like, okay, I can't play this game right now. Like I can't sit here and try this again and again and again. But apart from that, it's like like you said earlier when we were texting or whatever, it's a masterpiece.
It's close to perfect.
It's so good.
Love the soundscape too, just the like tweeting birds in the background and like no music whatsoever,
which is
so
perfect.
Good.
It doesn't need music.
Music would keep you from doing like run after run after run because you'd be like, I'm sick of hearing this shit, or whatever it is, you'd turn it off or whatever. It's kind of nice to just like there's none of that distraction.
Or like push a certain tempo on you that you may or may not want for a given section, right?
Yeah, I take every night mode just basically with the brakes on the entire time, just taking 4 times as long as a normal run.
Say Nana's out for a stroll on this one,
Even that feeling though of just being able to go just a little faster than you did last time, just because you know the track a little bit better, is so satisfying. For sure. Why don't we kick it over to Randall here for the newest video game of the bunch, saving it for last here.
Saving it for last. Super
it's an old
Mario
game too.
RPG. Super Mario RPG. So this came out originally on Super Nintendo in 96. Not a game I played then.
I didn't realize it was that old.
Yeah, 96. And it's a Square developed, which was pretty novel at that time too, right? That Nintendo didn't make it, but being an RPG, not something Nintendo was really known for. They kind of dabbled around the edges with some of the Zelda stuff, but not really. So, I didn't play it then. Even though Kevin, you had mentioned before we started that you own it physically. I think I do too on Super Nintendo, but like I don't even know if I've even played it there. Even to pop it in, So all that to say, I went in kind of blind, but it was one of those games I was able to get like the buy 2 get 1 free from Best Buy, and it was a pre-order thing. So like, why not? I'm just always in love with the 1,000-Year Door Paper Mario, game, as well as the best of the Mario and Luigi series and all that stuff. So I'm like, let's go back to the proto one. I've always had a side eye. There's some people that, there's a whole cult following for some of the side characters that are in this
like
game.
Gino, everybody loves Gino. And I kind of love Gino, even having never played the game. I kind of just love the character design of Gino. It's like so not a Mario character. And that's kind of the charm of this game.
Yes. Very, very much more just kind of like JRPG of the time. But, the cutesy is, not as Nintendo styling. So, all that also to say is it's more of a traditional RPG to some degree, more than even some of the other Paper Mario stuff in my experience. So I'll start with the good stuff. The good stuff is it's cute. You know, they added this new coat of paint to it. I like the visually styling well enough. The cutscenes are really well done. They're short, but like if there's like a new character intro or a boss or whatever else, like you're getting this cool cutscene, and that's super fun. They did a good job with that. The music, is nice enough, at least the first time you're hearing some of those tracks. You can play as Bowser and Peach, and that's maybe gotta be probably the first time that you could do that. So that's pretty cool and novel as well. So, okay, those are the good things, right? I think I covered. So,
oh boy.
Hard to go back to, I'll say, is where I stand on this. I think it's pretty faithful to what that Super Nintendo game is, and if you're a fan of that game and it's in your nostalgia, I think that's great, and you'll probably have a good time again. For me, coming to it fresh for the first time, and loving Paper Mario and Thousand Year Door, the games that were informed by it but evolved from it, right?
Right.
It's just tough. Like you get stuff like
it's old JRPG.
It's old JRPG.
It does look all the clips they showed in like the trailer and the Nintendo Direct when they announced it does look very faithful to where it's like same angle perspectives.
Yes.
Like they just plugged in new, they've updated some things, but like kind of just quality of life stuff. It kind of seemed as far as like the game layout and structure, it seemed identical.
A little bit of quality of life stuff, and I have some things to say about that too, because it's a little unevenly applied.
Did they not like update inventory management and stuff?
That's one of the pieces that irks me. So it kind of did, but like there's this nice when you just press start and you do the full pause. There's ways of looking at, your party, and you can sub in and out characters, and there's items and equipment and all that stuff. But specifically, there's maps and there's, there's cool things like being able to teleport to different parts of the map. Sometimes if you haven't visited it for the first time, you have to go there like on this map screen. You can't just teleport. That's fine. But with like items and equipment, in the start menu, I'm not able, like, I can see that there's like an item I want to use or an equipment, but sometimes like it won't let me equip that thing in that menu. It says go to the other menu by pressing like X or whatever, and you have to equip it from that menu, which makes me think this whole thing's running like behind an emulator shell or something. It's just really odd. And I'm like, what is this? Like, you did a really good job with like how this looks, but the quality of life stuff is not consistent that way. Like you're showing me things, and that's nice enough, I guess, but I'm thinking that I can interact with these things I'm looking at, and that's not always the case. I have to go into this other menu, and then, okay, I guess I'll just use that X menu, but it's a simplified menu as, closer to what that Super Nintendo one probably was for items or equipment. And
and you're already doing enough menu diving and stuff in a general, RPG or JRPG as it is. It's like to make it a more tedious. Like anything you do to streamline that process seems like it'd be an improvement.
Yeah, you would think.
So the comparison that I'm drawing to is like the Link's Awakening remake on Switch.
There's some through lines there.
Yeah,
but like that coming from a Game Boy game which had the barest of like menu systems and like, but I did not remember, like I can't even picture the Switch menu, and I think that's to its benefit in that.
I think they were pretty faithful in that game though too. I'll say I remember like them sticking to like the 2 button, like you can only like assign those 2 things. Like there wasn't any like hotkey to like swap my items out or. Just things that would be like not like if I could have just used the shoulder button to toggle through my like B item in Link's Awakening, like that would have been so nice to just boomerang, let me flame, okay, like just something like that instead of okay, let me pause, let me switch, let me unpause. Like it's just so tedious,
Yep.
That would have been actually a real, like I hadn't
just
even
something
thought of that,
simple.
If you had assigned 2, like to an R button and an L button,
you can keep it. You can keep it at the 2, like keep that limitation of only being able to have 2 things equipped. but like let me swap through them quickly. Like I love like
Right.
the modern Mega Man ports or whatever that let you just toggle between the different power-ups without pausing the game
Yes.
after you unlock them.
That's real
Nothing to be
quality
said
of life
about
stuff.
the input lag, but
Use the buttons available. And, you know, I get, too, that
Right.
there's probably a counterbalance of, like, my God, there's so many buttons on a modern controller, and maybe some of these folks are coming from some of those, you know, the nostalgia angle where they haven't played a system in a while, and, you know, they only want less buttons. But there's, I think,
Yeah.
you know, just still only using a couple of shoulder buttons wouldn't be too crazy. And then there's it's not mandatory to do that in that example, to flip between things you could equip. So, yeah.
Yeah, like the menu stuff seems weird that is the thing that you're sticking
Yeah.
with from the original time.
Yeah.
and it's not, none of that stuff's like action driven where you have to like internalize the controls. Like
No.
it's like once you kind of, I mean, you do it to a degree to navigate the
To
menus,
get to the
but
menu. Right.
yeah.
Yeah. So it's just
But-
like it's odd. And then another through line from that Link's Awakening remake to this is I just noticed some stuttering, you know, in going around some of the town areas.
I was worried about that.
Yeah, which again, I'm not like some frame rate purist or anything, and I know the Switch has been out for 1,000 years, but this again doesn't seem like the most intense thing.
It doesn't seem that
It's just like
demanding.
it just seems like maybe it just wasn't super duper optimized. I don't know.
Yeah, or it's just like at a point, because I will say, like, but same thing with Link's Awakening. It's a really good looking game, like it's really sharp.
Yeah.
But like it's almost like they like push the visuals like just a little too far for like
know.
what the Switch can handle, and
Yeah.
like that's kind of the impression I got. That's sort of the reason I didn't jump and buy this one like right away, and I still kind of want to get it, although I'm leaning a little more in the opposite direction now
that
with
then,
what you're
yeah.
saying here. Well, lay it on me, talk me out of buying this game completely, save me some money.
Oh, geez. Okay. So I guess there was a little bit of good still that I didn't give credit. Some of the dialogue's cute. I will say in like a lot of Mario RPGs, some of the dialogue can be cute. The enemy design and the main character design, all the design of stuff is cute and quirky, and you know there's some charm in all of that. I don't think I mentioned that before, so want to throw that out there. But okay.
But you're also not selling the remake as opposed
No.
to like all those things were in the
Right,
original. Like,
Yes.
and the original's still accessible.
Yeah, is that on the Switch Online? I guess I don't know or not.
I don't think it's on
not-
the Switch Online, but it is on the Super Nintendo
Like mini or whatever.
Yeah.
Mini.
Yeah.
And it's been available on like the
'Cause that's where I
various
was playing
virtual
it.
console
Yep,
shops.
Wii
over the
Virtual
years and stuff.
Console. Yep, for sure.
So it's been
Yep.
it's been available for a reasonable price over the recent years.
Yep.
It's also one of the first games I ever emulated.
Oh, there you go.
So
Nice.
it's always available for $3.99.
So the input timing. This is maybe one of my bigger deal breakers. Is I like the visual indicators for doing the special inputs when you're going to like hit an enemy
Yeah.
are really difficult to discern because they're like often they're these like big animations when like Gino, the more magic character, or like Mallow, they both kind of have like magic stuff. Like Mallow has this like lightning strike or whatever, so there's lightning bolts happening everywhere.
Yeah.
It's not one lightning bolt that you're waiting for. There's a lot of lightning happening, and at some point in that sequence is the right time to hit it to make it hit for more. And there is like a little exclamation point thing that comes up, but it's, to me, I've never caught the timing of that because it's not at the end of the animation necessarily. It's close to the end of the animation, and it never felt intuitive to me, a la some like rhythm games that kind of can have that problem sometimes to me. Like that's what I was feeling, and I could never, like, defending is one thing. The enemy attacks are kind of the same way. I know I got to hit it at the end to prevent the damage. I was getting pretty good with that. But the attacks, I was like, some of these attacks, I'm like, I'm doing these over and over again, and I'm like feeling like I'm not really getting any better than 50% success tops
And if it's anything like the Paper Mario games, like that gets to be a little bit crucial in the later games.
Yes.
Like you kind of have to land all those blocks and all those kind of extra damage points to win a lot of those battles, I feel.
Yeah. And and you can grind where you can kind of offset some of that stuff a little bit. And I did do some grinding, and maybe that's also why I've fallen off on this, because I do that to myself. But it's just that really hurt my cause. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally remember that being a nightmare in comparison, because I also went from Paper Mario back to Super Mario RPG, and Paper Mario telegraphs
Very
it really
clearly.
well. Like, has it? I mean, it's so much simpler in comparison, but like I could probably count on one hand the amount of times I successfully hit the timing right on an attack.
Even in the original version. That's good to know too. And then like the other piece of that that kind of is alongside is, if you juxtapose it against Paper Mario, it's not just the A button, which is the case in Super Mario RPG. Every single one is just press the A button at the right time. Where in Paper Mario, you're holding back the analog stick to the right moment on some of the attacks, and that feels so good.
That, like flicking it back and then releasing it to slam the hammer. Yeah, it like feels kind of intuitive to what the movement that you're doing is. Kind of, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yep. Instead of just pushing A at some arbitrary time that I'm horrible at. So like, man, that was rough. That was very rough. And like I said, it never got too much better. Also, there's isometric platforming, and that's not great because...
Oh, my God. Yes, it's getting the hits of all of the weakest points of the original game.
And again...
So all I'm hearing is that it's a faithful recreation.
It's seemingly very faithful. And I'm kind of a sicko where I'm like, no,
maybe, yeah.
Like Landstalker kind of works, and that's an isometric platformer, but it's designed around that. Whereas this is an RPG game with platforming elements that happens to be in an isometric perspective. And you're controlling a character in an RPG game that can kind of jump, but it doesn't feel great.
It's a really stiff jump. The little bit I've played of that game, it's like you're not really able to tell, like, oh, I'm going to jump over this gap and cover this. But you don't have a good feel of that. Yeah.
Especially when the environments change in every world, so you don't know where the end of a platform is compared to another.
Yeah, I almost feel like it maybe be a little better in this game because I feel like it might be a little easier to visually parse things, whereas like that kind of smeared 2D look, even though I love that look of the Super Nintendo one.
It is clean looking that way.
That might help a little.
Yeah, but like you feel like I want to jump like a Mario game because I'm controlling Mario, and so I'm like moving for momentum before I jump, but then often I'm just like falling off the edge of stuff because you're often, with this isometric perspective and the secrets they add, you can get kind of on the top of these little rooms or on the top of toads or whatever else, and you make these little particular jumps, and I'm like, okay, I move and then I jump and I'll get over there, but no, it just doesn't feel that way. It's not, and I was mistiming that all the time too. A lot of mistiming. Another big thing that killed me, probably one of the last big issues that I had is, so there's secrets. There are these secret blocks in these areas. Some of these areas are very big. And they'll just, you can equip a badge that says it's a badge to equip to find the hidden blocks, the secret blocks. And I'm like, oh, okay, why wouldn't I equip that to know when there's a hidden block or secret block? I want to get all the doodads and the extra potions and whatever else. But then the result of that effectively is you just jumping in every single space of a level, both on the first plane, but then also if there's any verticality, jumping on top of stuff to jump to see if there's, hidden blocks. And that is very tedious when it's not explicitly tile based either. So you're kind of having to intuit where does one tile stop and another begin in this isometric space to find this one hidden block that might be in this relatively large area, and that's just not necessarily fun gameplay at some point to just be jumping around and hearing the jump sound over and over and over and over and over again endlessly. And then the music's super repetitive too. I guess that's the other part. Just once you've been in these areas for a while, there's that loop kind of hits and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm bashing at this point, but it's already back in the box. I put like 5 hours in, so it's not like I immediately jumped off ship, but yeah, it's going to get sold.
Ooh, right into the set for sale bin. I didn't think you'd go over there. I thought you'd maybe stick it around in the collection just for, the sake of owning it or whatever.
I don't have enough space for the Switch games I have as it is.
I
need to keep the ones I like.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah, well, that's kind of good to know, because that's like, as much as like, I'm kind of like you, or you were kind of saying earlier, I don't know if you fully said this or not, but I was thinking like, I kind of tend to lean towards like, I do like that kind of faithful remake a lot of times, but at the same time, I know we've talked about like all those Pocky and Rocky Wild Guns. I know I'm a broken record with those games, but like, I'm kind of all about a reimagining at this point. Yeah. I don't want a faithful,
absolutely,
with just some updated visuals and quality of life stuff. I kind of want like, give me what that game should have been if it came out now. I want that almost every time. Maybe not if it's like a Metroid Prime remastered, but maybe still. Who knows what that would have been like if they were just like, what would this game have been now? And they just released it instead of making it just like a 1-to-1 port. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. No, it's totally fair. Those original versions are generally accessible one way or another, right? Like, so
right.
Add those quality of life features that make sense for the modern platform and sensibilities without hopefully losing the spirit of the thing. And I will say I don't think they lost the spirit of the thing here. It's just really rough to go back to.
Yeah.
I've felt, even when I first saw it, I was like, well, I own this game.
You do.
Like, I already have this game. Like, unless it's actually going to do something new, like, I don't necessarily want it. And I thank you for your service, because
you just did me a favor too.
I also don't think I
was getting ready to snag this one. I got a few Target gift cards for Christmas, and I was like, maybe I'll put, that'll cover. I have one $50 gift card. Like, that'll pretty much cover Mario RPG. Maybe I'll just snag it. And yeah, I was kind of like John, just kind of grab it out of like service to like, I'm a Nintendo fan, and I don't necessarily need to buy every Nintendo game. So
save it for that 1,000-year door. I haven't even gotten
Pikmin 4.
Yeah,
Pikmin 4 is so good.
Pikmin 4. Yeah, there's a video game.
Yeah. No doubt. Well, yeah, that's a shame. But I'm glad you still gave it a shot, and you got it for free. So maybe you'll end up coming out, or not for free, but you got a part of that buy two, get one deal or whatever.
Yeah,
so
it was effectively
maybe
the free
come
game
out ahead
by release schedule. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. So maybe you'll come out ahead, pawning this one off for a few bucks or whatever.
I better do it now.
Yeah. Get top dollar for that sucker.
Yeah.
Oh man, well that's a shame. I was gonna say hopefully we'll hear more about this one in the future, but I guess not from you at least.
No, you won't hear
I'm still kind of a sucker. There's a part of me, but knowing that they got that 1,000-Year Door remake coming down the pipeline, it's like I'm just gonna wait for that. That seems like the one to wait for. So
yeah, and they added like this triple attack thing that you can do in this new one. Apparently, like there's some of those things I obviously had no idea was new, but like
I remember seeing something like it attacks like all the enemies at once if you do something right, and it kind of expedites the process a little. But like I do remember when they showed that in the Nintendo Direct, I was like, they're all the stuff that they're like showing is like the new features. I was like, that's not really enough to justify this.
Not really a
same
massive upgrade.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, that's a shame. I'm glad we didn't open up with that.
That's kind of what I was hesitant around to some degree.
I was like, Randall's not tipping his hand here. So, but yeah, I think we can wrap it up there this week for the video games discussion and whatnot. And I guess off to an interesting start for 2024 with the video games. And I'm excited to, like I said, I got the new apartment, so I'm excited to actually properly dig into some of these games that I've either just glanced on or just been putting off until I have a proper setup. But I don't know. Yeah, until next week, we will catch you then. And we're on the internet at pursuingpixels.com. And yeah, until next week, take care and take care.
Flawless.
Oh, man. Bye.
Perfect.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, man. All good over there, Randall?
Yeah, we couldn't find Bun, the bunny baby, so which
no.
Daddy had already put Bun Bun in bed before this. There's a whole series of things that I make sure are taken care of.
I got the ritual down, but I know exactly where Bun Bun is.
my life is so structured. There's just like this invisible checklist that happens every day in a number of regards, and that is one of those things. So yeah, it was
perfect.
taken care
That's
of, but we
amazing.
couldn't find it. So there you go.
You
That's
did
what
find
happened.
it though. Beautiful, beautiful.
I did. She went back into her room, and then Tina's helping her find it.
Oh no! Oh no!
But, yeah, Bun Bun is there. I know Bun Bun's there. Probably under a pillow. We're all right.
Oh man!
Oh my god.
We're good.
Good deal. Good deal.